Hi fellow fashionistas, I apologize for the long wait. I think it's been about 5-6 weeks since I've done a video. I've just been inundated with work. I'm working on this project that is a complete undertaking. And in fact, I have a lot of concealer on right now to kind of hide the bags under my eyes, but you know, it's life, it happens. But I wanted to take a moment now if things have kind of calmed down, maybe there's a little bit of normalcy, I don't know. I want to talk about thrifting. And so I'm going to record a couple of videos that deal with thrifting, of course. That's what I do. I'm the frugal fashionista, and that's what I talk about on my blog and on my channel. And obviously you can see all of my thrifting finds on Instagram because I always show new outfits, and of course anytime I have a thrifting haul. And maybe one day I'll do a thrift haul video. People have been asking me to do haul videos, and every time I buy something I can't wait and I put it on Instagram and I forget to film it, or I just don't have a chance to film it. I would say about 80% of my closet comes from thrift stores or from consignment shops. So they're essentially, they're secondhand, where I've actually made a purchase in secondhand clothing. About 5% of my closet is gifted to me because people love to give me clothes, either new clothes or again, secondhand clothes that are hand-me-downs that they want to give to me. And then maybe another 15% are retail because there's some things that I need to buy off the rack, but I generally try to save the least amount of money possible, or save a lot of money, spend less, something like that. I told you it's been a rough week. So over the course of the next couple of videos, I want to share with you some of the ways that we save money buying secondhand clothing and make it fashionable. And by we, I mean those of us who are on the internet, YouTube, blogs, Instagram, whatever, that talk about how to save money and look fashionable. So this video, I'm going to give some reasons why we thrift and we buy things secondhand, because all of us have different reasons, and some of them are personal, and then some of them obviously I'm getting from other people because I follow a lot of those fashion bloggers. Hi, if you're one of them out there. The next video, I will talk to those of you who always tell me you can't find anything when you're thrifting, which is interesting because I go to a thrift shop and I find a whole bunch of things. So I'm going to give some tips on how to make thrifting and consignment shopping work for you, and then maybe do a couple of videos that are style tutorials about what to do with your thrifting finds and how to style yourself. So really it's going to be a series, and we'll see how many of these I can get out in the next couple of weeks. So first things first, why people thrift. And obviously, people want to save money. That's the most obvious reason, is this whole idea of frugal living. I'm also a frugal blogger. I fall into a couple of different categories: fashion blogger, style blogger, and frugal blogger. Frugal bloggers, now I focus on clothing, but a lot of frugal bloggers look at things like home furnishings or eating out or all different kinds of things because they're about budgeting and saving money. And frugal living is not about being cheap and not spending money. Because I could easily do a haul at one of these fast fashion places, you know who I'm talking about, those places that you can buy a dress for $15 and you wash it twice and it falls apart. So if you had to buy several of those dresses, or they don't ever really go back to the shape that they were supposed to after you wash them, you really have wasted your money because you're never going to wear it again, or it's going to tear up. When you can buy probably 2 dresses or more at a thrift store that are better quality and you save money. And I'm not about not spending money, because I buy suits and I have to buy them off the rack 9 times out of 10. So it's about making quality investments but not spending money where you don't need to be. So that's what frugal living is about. And secondhand shopping, whether it's through thrift stores or consignment, very, very helpful. And now I'm going to make a distinction between thrift stores and consignment, because my next point is about helping others. It's a way of not only buying clothing for yourself, but helping other people in the process. A thrift shop, people donate their goods, and usually a thrift shop is related in some way to some sort of charity. It could be a local charity, like we have a few that help with drug rehabilitation programs, help the homeless. One helps, the funds go to a domestic shelter for women and children who are victims of domestic abuse. And so a lot of these places will take the goods and they will sell them. I mean, there's not a whole lot of overhead because they have no inventory. It's all donated goods. But most of their overhead comes in the form of employees, or maybe rent electricity, but there's a higher percentage of proceeds that can go to fund these charities. So obviously when you go to a thrift store, you're not just buying something, you're actually helping other people in the process. Consignment shops are a little different. Now, consignment is where you take your clothes, and essentially there's two different ways to consign. There's the Plato's closet form of consignment, where they look at your clothes, decide what they want, they pay you up front, and then they mark up those clothes and sell it for a higher profit, obviously. There are other consignment shops where you get a percentage or maybe a chunk of whatever the profits are after they sell it. Okay, so there's two different types of consignment. A lot of the second type of consignment, the one that you get money off of after the fact when it sells, a lot of those consignment shops are local and they're owned by people who are small business owners. So when you go and invest into their business, you're actually investing in the economy. So I like the idea that rather than just buying something that goes somewhere to a corporation for maybe their stockholders or their stockholders' pockets, their pockets, and that's not to say that corporations don't do good things. It's just to say that I like the idea that my money actually funds programs and helps small businesses and helps my local economy. Another reason why people thrift, which I don't know if a lot of people think about, is environmental reasons. We produce a lot of waste, and most of the clothes that we wear now, they're not wool, they're not silk or cotton, they are some form of plastic. And so there's a lot of waste that goes into producing new clothes, and a lot of those cheap clothes that I was just talking about earlier, and maybe some of the not so cheap clothes, end up in landfills because they do not biodegrade. And so for a lot of people, if you watch movies like The True Cost, or you've been kind of following up on it, a lot of people will do it for environmental reasons, because you're taking clothing that already exists, and in your own little way you're investing in giving those things new life and repurposing them, rather than those clothes going to a landfill or producing more waste for new clothes. So for some people it is an ethical issue as far as environmental, or it's an ethical issue because they don't like how certain clothes are produced. And so rather than maybe contributing to a company that uses a sweatshop or doesn't pay their employees or have questionable type of practices, sometimes people feel they can go to a thrift shop or consignment shop and avoid that kind of unnecessarily, or invest in brands that don't necessarily deal with those type of issues. And I actually do have an ethical standard with a lot of my clothing. And if you're curious to know, especially with products that occasionally I get sponsored content and I represent companies. And so if you're ever curious, I do have a link below this video where you can look at my about section on my blog, and you can find out exactly what my policies are concerning the brands that I represent. And then, of course, a great reason to go thrift shopping or consignment is that you have your own style. You don't allow the stores to tell you what is trending. And sometimes I want something and I cannot find it in the stores. So for a lot of us who've been doing this for years and years, we've been trying to make our own style out of whatever we find at a thrift store or a consignment shop. Like, for example, this shirt was actually consigned. The bralette is new, the jewelry is relatively new, but this was actually a consignment find. And the great thing about thrifting and consignment is that now that we're this millennium, for some reason, we're not producing new trends, we're just kind of regurgitating old trends. And so it's very easy to find authentic 80s and 90s stuff in the thrift stores. But the other thing too that I love about thrifting and style is that if you don't like the trends, like I lived through chevron prints. I absolutely loathe chevron prints. It's okay if you love them, I don't. And I wouldn't wear them. Or maybe a particular color is completely just wrong for your skin tone and that's all everyone is selling. It's great to go into a thrift store and be able to find your own style and find some pieces to put together. So those are some of the reasons why people thrift and consign beyond just saving money. And I hope that maybe this appeals to you. Like I said, I don't necessarily personally do it. There is one I forgot. There's an honorable mention that you may not think about. This was the personal reason why I started going into the secondhand clothing arena, if you will. A couple years ago, I got diagnosed with celiac disease, and if you're not familiar with it, I'll post a link at the bottom so that you can learn a little bit more about celiac. But I lost a lot of weight when I was diagnosed because they had to completely overhaul my diet, and I lost maybe 25 pounds within 6 months. So if you're going through a transition in your life, it could be that you're unemployed and you're trying to get work clothes so that you can interview, or maybe you've recently had a baby and your weight's kind of fluctuating, or maybe you're losing weight and you haven't met your goal weight yet. There's no sense in buying brand new clothes that you're going to have altered or can't fit in a couple of months. So it's really good to go to thrift stores or to consignment shops and find those transition pieces so that you're not spending a lot of money. And for my friends that are working out and they're losing weight and they're really happy about their body, but they still got a ways to go before they hit their goal weight, they're always asking me how can they shop for their body. And that's the thing I recommend. I waited until I had the same weight for about 4 months before I started to buy new clothes, because I just knew if I bought something 2 months later, it wouldn't fit. And so thrifting and consignment allows you to have the ability to kind of work through that transition somewhat easily. So those are the reasons why we thrift, and hopefully you share some of those reasons, or I've given you something to think about anyway. In the next video, I'm going to give you some tips on how to thrift and how to consign and do it effectively, because it's not really that hard of a science, but there are some kind of tips and tricks. So until the next video, happy shopping!